But first, knowing Labor, I'm sure the election date was deliberately chosen with Easter, the school holidays, and of course Anzac Day smack bang in the middle of the campaign. So people would not have politics on their mind, because if they're not focused, usually it's the incumbent that's favoured. Because this is a PM who might be hopeless at government, but I tell you what, he's got rat cunning when it comes to the politics. And he's willing to play whatever card he needs to hang on to power. But rather than give him a leave pass, as he hopes, by making us distracted, Anzac Day should make us more focused than ever about where our country's headed and the sort of choices we must make at the ballot box in coming days. Indeed, Anzac Day should stop us in our tracks and make us think about how much their times, worryingly, now resemble ours, with dictators on the march threatening freedom around the globe, and a population increasingly unsure if it's got what it takes to defend our values if called upon. Anzac Eve and Anzac Day tomorrow should be our focus rather than the Prime Minister's distraction, a reminder of what our country can and should be. The young men who went off to fight in 1914 and again in 1939 and in all the other wars since were Australia at its best. They loved our country, they honoured our flag, they knew our history, and they realised that if justice and freedom are diminished somewhere, they're diminished everywhere. They understood that if we want others to fight and die for us, then we have to be prepared to fight and die for others. That's what alliances mean, especially in a more dangerous world. Now, obviously, our country has changed over the decades. We're more ethnically diverse, we're less Christian. But I hope we're no less patriotic and no less conscious of the debt we owe to the generations before us that have given us such a relatively free, safe and decent life. Despite the current tendency to fly three flags and not one, and to anguish over our history rather than to cherish it, yesterday was a poll suggesting that just 16% of young Australians would unconditionally fight for our country. Now, I'm reminded here of the infamous 1933 Oxford Union vote, where a vast majority of students voted that under no circumstances would they fight for king and country. And yet, most of those students did exactly that within a decade. Likewise, polls in Ukraine just before the Russian invasion showed a deep reluctance to fight, yet that's exactly what almost an entire population there has done ever since Putin's tanks rolled across their border. Now, it's easy to worry about young people living online and to fear for the character of a country where almost every tradition is routinely scorned as old-fashioned or, God forbid, conservative. But it is in the instincts of conservatives of the past, it's those instincts that call us to believe that some things and some values are worth fighting for. And that is then the reason we are free. Free to air opinions that others may or may not agree with. Again, it's almost always the left that doesn't just disagree with their opponents, but wants them shut down and silenced. So on Anzac Day, on this Anzac Eve, I give thanks. I give thanks for the privilege it is to grow up in their Australia. I give thanks for my Anzac great-grandfather, my pa who was wounded in New Guinea in the Second World War, and for my own brother who has worn our uniform too. To all of them and all the hundreds of thousands like them, thank you for your service, and thank you and your family for your sacrifice. If only we could be led with as much courage and commitment as our soldiers have shown our nation. Now, I know Labor thinks they've got a masterstroke in using Anzac Day as a distraction. I'm not so sure. I think it just amplifies how important leadership is to a country. And as we stand in the dawn light tomorrow, I think that Australia's future will be as much on our minds as Australia's past. And with that, I hope we all vote accordingly.